Since 2025, E20 fuel, that's 80% petrol and 20% ethanol, has become the default fuel at nearly all petrol stations across the nation. On June 5th, the petroleum minister switched on E85 fuel at an Indian oil pump in Delhi. There are 48 outlets serving it today, and the plan is to get to 5,000 by the end of 2027. Evidently, the ethanol revolution is upon us, and we do not get to have a say in it. Maybe your bike's been running rougher since.
भाई लोग एथेनॉल की वजह से देखो गाड़ियों में कैसा कैसा प्रॉब्लम आ रहा, देखो अंदर पूरा कैसा जमा हो गया पूरा कचरा.
This is a motorcycle refusing to start.
Maybe your car's mileage has dropped.
एवरेज तो कम हो ही रही है गाड़ी की, साथ ही साथ इसका जो टैंक है वो चोक हो गया.
पहले ही बीच रास्ते में खराब हो गई और अचानक से इंजन लाइट आ गई है, गाड़ी में पूरी वाइब्रेशन बढ़ गई.
And maybe you've heard reports that the reason for this damage is a corporate scandal led by Nitin Gadkari and his family. But all of this is just a small part of a much larger story. While it's true that this ethanol push is a genuinely impressive and ambitious project for a developing nation like ours, but agricultural inefficiency and corporate greed is charging this movement a very hefty bill, and it's the working class pockets that ends up paying the debt. And believe it or not, this is a movement increasing the number of water wives in India. And yes, that's a real thing, but we'll get to that later. So, in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to share everything we've researched and found, what India got right, what we got dangerously wrong, what is costing you in rupees, and most importantly, what you can do to protect yourself during this transition. Okay, quick recap of the story until now. Now, some of you might already know some of this, some of you may not, but let's get you all on the same page. This bit is important, so stay with me, okay? Now, this problem India is trying to solve is old and brutal. India imports about 85% of its crude oil. In 2024-2025 financial year, the import bill was roughly $137 billion. Now, every time there's a war in the West Asia, every time a tanker can't cross the Strait of Hormuz, India's economy feels it at every level. Not to mention that fossil fuels are not a sustainable practice. So, the goal is energy independence, Atmanirbharta. Make your own fuel. And the world already knows the real long-term answer to this. It's electric, EVs. The cost curve on batteries is collapsing. Global battery pack prices just hit a record low of around $108 per kilowatt hour in 2025. Running an EV in India costs roughly 1 to 1.5 rupees per kilometer versus 6 plus for a petrol car. But unfortunately, you cannot electrify 260 million two-wheelers overnight. You cannot rebuild a country's entire fuel infrastructure in 5 years. That transition takes decades. And it is to bridge that transition that the ethanol revolution started to take shape in India since the early 2000s. That's when our ethanol blending program began, but for 20 years, it barely moved. Then, in 2021,
आज हमने पेट्रोल में 20% इथेनॉल ब्लेंडिंग के लक्ष्य को 2025 तक पूरा करने का संकल्प किया है.
it suddenly became the most rapidly fast-track project helmed by a government ever. I wonder why that is. I'll answer that in chapter 2. Now, the government pitched to us that ethanol fuel is cheaper than crude oil, which will make our import bills go down. Even emissions would reduce because ethanol is cleaner energy source than petrol. And no, we get to pay our own farmers for the raw materials instead of crude exporters in Saudi. But most importantly, we get cheaper fuel. Such were the promises made by the government.
अब सब गाड़ियां किसानों ने तैयार किए हुए इथेनॉल पर चलेगी. 60% इथेनॉल, 40% बिजली, उसका अगर एवरेज पकड़ा जाएगा तो 15 रुपए लीटर पेट्रोल का भाव होगा, जनता का भला होगा.
So, how many of those actually came true and what did it secretly cost us? Let me show you. By June 2026, our petroleum minister laid out the official scorecard. Ethanol blending over the years had cut India's oil import bill and saved over 1.84 lakh crore in foreign exchange. It avoided nearly 909 lakh tons of carbon emissions, and it put well over 1.18 lakh crore directly into our farmers' hands. Which, by the way, is great news. Credit where it's due. And we also got there fast. The target was 20% ethanol in petrol E20 by 2030. India hit it in 2025, 5 years early. But that's exactly what brought on the green lash. See, this wasn't an unforeseen circumstance either. Look at Niti Aayog's own roadmap. They predicted this would happen. They recommended pricing the fuel cheaper, but nope. The government just ignored that. If ethanol production costs the government lesser than petrol and they are saving so much money on foreign exchange, then why hasn't fuel gotten cheaper for the common folk? Well, as it stands, E20 petrol in Delhi costs about 103 rupees a litre. Same as regular petrol. The exact same price for lesser mileage than petrol. That's literally straight up looting. And then came the second wave of the green lash. See, ethanol is hygroscopic. It pulls moisture off the air, so over time, that moisture corrodes metal fuel lines and eats away at the rubber and plastic parts of your engine. And yes, this too was flagged in the Niti Aayog roadmap. Finally, the third wave, the insurance trap. ICICI Lombard published a note warning that ethanol-related damage in older non-compatible cars could be treated as negligence and claims could be disputed, which would have made sense had we been given a chance. But since April 1st, 2026, E20 fuel is the only fuel available. There's no choice anymore. Vehicle owners are literally being hung out to dry blatantly. So, now you know the cost individuals paid for a relief in foreign exchange that the government wanted. But what about relief for us? Well, that came too in the form of a cut in excise duty. The government called it a revenue sacrifice of nearly 1 lakh crore. Sounds noble until you learn the context. Look at this chart, okay? In 2013, crude oil was about $105 a barrel. Petrol in India was around 70 rupees. Excise duty was roughly 10. In 2014, crude crashed. Petrol price in India stayed the same. In 2015, crude was half the price. We barely felt the discount. In 2020, the same story. And right now, crude is over $80, but fuel prices are at an all-time high. Maybe the hikes are backed by import difficulties and welfare needs, but one of those major needs is cheaper fuel, and that has been completely ignored. Now, to make it worse, the government calls excise duty cuts a revenue sacrifice on their part, when all they did was return our money to us. We paid those taxes, and we still don't know where exactly that money went. No real transparency, no accounting. That's precisely what's eroding public trust. And to completely destroy whatever trust that did remain came the next big controversy. Now, reportedly, the Petrol Ministry didn't architect this ethanol push by themselves. The person who actually spearheaded it, who fast-tracked the target from 2030 to 2025, is somebody else entirely. It's Nitin Gadkari, our Road and Transport Minister. The acceleration of E85 and E100 plans, this entire revolution can be credited, or I guess blamed, on him depending on which side of the story you're on. Now, a lot of critics argue whether the ethanol push is a story of public interest or a story of the private interests of Nitin Gadkari, because allegations surface that his family business is deeply tied to the ethanol push. His son apparently is linked to a company called Cyan Agro, an ethanol supplier, and in June 2024, Cyan Agro reported revenue of around 18 crores, normal, reasonable, but 1 year later, 523 crores. The stock climbed over 2,000%, which is not a normal rise. That's like, I don't know, the Larry Silverstein level of lucky. But Gadkari denies the allegation, saying his son's company makes up less than 0.5% of India's ethanol supply, that he does not award the tenders, the Petroleum Ministry does, that he does not set prices, the cabinet does. Since there's no actual evidence of any wrongdoings, this could be pure coincidence as well. We cannot know because there's been no investigation. The Prevention of Corruption Act was designed to prevent such a conflict of interest, and yet here we are. Now, even when a citizen tied to RTI asked the government to disclose the ARAI safety studies it cited to justify E20, ARAI simply refused, calling them confidential trade secrets. Now, the lack of this transparency and the dangerous loopholes utilized are what makes people lose trust bit by bit.
ये जो आर्गुमेंट करने वाले लोग हैं ना, ये सबसे देश में एंटी नेशनल है.
I want to be clear, these questions are not anti-national or anti-government even. I'm just covering everything that's happened. Like, for example, this sentiment from Nitin Gadkari himself.
किया था कि ड्राइवरलेस कार को इंडिया में आने नहीं दूंगा. इसका कारण हमारे देश में ड्राइवर के रूप में बहुत बड़ा एम्प्लॉयमेंट मिला. और अगर आप ड्राइवरलेस कार लाएंगे तो ये लोगों की नौकरियां जाएगी.
That very sentiment is what I hope he continues to adhere to as he continues on the most extensive marketing campaign ever done for ganne ka juice or fuel. So, you have eroding public trust, and instead of halting the momentum of the ethanol push, they are accelerating it. Within months of hitting E20, India notified standards for E22, E27, even E30. It waived excise on the higher blends. E85 is already rolling out. Plans for E100 are on the table. Even isobutanol, in fact, is being tested as a stand-in for diesel. India is now the third largest ethanol producer on planet Earth. Brazil took decades to reach a 25% blend. The United States has been stuck at 10% blend wall for literally 15 years, and we have just sprinted past our milestones. But it's this very sprint that is about to turn into an unpredictable downfall, and almost nobody's talking about it. See, okay, ethanol does not just come from thin air. It's made from crops, which means it's made from land and water, and the way India is choosing to grow it is setting up a new crisis. But before I share that with you, let's pause for a moment to talk about something else. See, we've been talking this whole time about the mismanagement of money, and it's the kind of thing that creeps into all our businesses and lives. So I wanted to show you that there's actually a way to know where every single rupee goes in real time through our partner for today's video, Odoo. Odoo is an all-in-one enterprise management app, and its AI-native accounting tool is built so a business never ends up in the dark. You send and receive unlimited invoices and bills, and it's fully GST compliant out of the box. There's basically no data entry either. Odoo's AI scans your bills at a 98% recognition rate, so all you do is hit validate. Snap a photo of a receipt on your phone, and it handles the rest. And reconciliation, the part that usually takes up days, Odoo syncs with 28,000 banks and matches 95% of your transactions automatically. You know, KPMG's own tax head said a VAT closing that usually used to take them 4 days now takes 3 hours with it. Every report updates live, so you always know exactly where your money is. And the best part, Odoo is more than just an accounting tool. It's an all-in-one business management software with 45 plus applications that scale as your business grows. And you can get the whole suite for 580 rupees per month per user. So check out Odoo from the link in the description. Now back to our video. You know, the original promise from our government was brilliant. We were going to brew this fuel from waste, like crop residue or the paddy straw that farmers set on fire every winter, used to produce what's called second generation ethanol. Now that way, ethanol wouldn't compete with other food crops for land use, and no extra water would have been wasted either for it. But that promise has almost entirely failed to materialize. India's flagship 2G plant in Panipat has limped along below capacity for years. We hit a 20% target with essentially zero contribution from the clean version. So let me show you where our ethanol is actually coming from, because therein lie the many issues. Roughly 70% of our ethanol comes from grain like rice and maize, and about 30% comes from sugarcane. Now sugarcane is what we started the ethanol production program with, but unfortunately, it's a water guzzling crop. You know, making a single liter of ethanol from cane takes over 3,500 liters of water, and most of our sugarcane grows in Maharashtra and UP, which are infamously some of the most water-stressed land in the country. Now, if you look at Brazil, they use corn as well, but theirs is mostly rain-fed. Our canes drink up the groundwater of an area where there's barely any left. That's definitely not good management. Then what the government did was they pivoted to maize, which now makes up about half of our ethanol source. But take a wild guess how much water it takes to produce 1 liter of ethanol from maize. It's 4,500 liters. But as the demand for maize increased, its price also jumped from 15,000 to 25,000 per ton. Now, we used to be a maize exporter, but now we are tipping into being net importers. About 60% of the maize we did produce used to go to poultry and cattle feed. So the cost of those farmers increases, and subsequently, the price of chicken and eggs are increasing as well. Now, add to that, the surge in maize demand is causing farmers to switch to it instead of pulses and oil seeds, the crops at the center of the Indian Indian platter. In other words, food prices will hike up and the edible oil imports bills will rise as well. The lack of proper management is causing our increase in self-reliance in energy to decrease our self-reliance in food. And finally, we have rice, the worst managed of the lot. So, the FCI has its own food stockpile which it buys in order to feed the poor people of the country. But it's that very rice that they are selling to ethanol distilleries. Now, you have to realize here, okay? Those grains were brought using our tax money and was meant for the lesser privileged people of this country. Right now, broken rice makes up 25% of the free rations handed to nearly 80 crore people. The government's new plan is to cut that share to 10% and send more to distilleries instead. Oh, and rice is also the biggest consumer of water. It drinks over 10,000 liters of water to produce a single liter of ethanol. This water crisis is the deepest impact of the ethanol push. We recently made a video on the El Nino heat waves. Even there, water scarcity is the main issue that the story led to. And we're also currently researching AI data centers and their water consumption. Everything is kind of starting to point in the same direction. A huge water crisis. So mismanagement can prove extremely deadly. You know, Niti Aayog has warned us that 21 major cities, including Delhi, Bangalore, and Chennai, face critical groundwater depletion. Many of these cities are expected to run out of water by 2030. This water crisis is so bad that in parts of rural Maharashtra, most notably in a village called Dengamal, the concept of a water wife has taken shape. You know, men in these villages marry a second or third wife, often a widower or someone who can't afford dowry, and their purpose is to simply fetch water from far away. We are not helping these women. We are enabling a scenario that produces more of them. You know, the bridge that was supposed to carry us from petrol to electric is mutating into its own new crisis. That is not what any of us signed up for. But there is some good news. Some of this can still be solved. Vehicles made before 2023 are not E20 compliant, which means you'll need to replace parts of it, or worst case, get rid of the rapidly depreciating asset that no one wants to buy. The least the government can do is channel some of that windfall into a real transition relief program. One where they compensate you for your outdated vehicle to some extent or subsidize replacement costs. Next up, the government needs to remember that the goal wasn't ethanol, it was second generation ethanol where land use and water crisis don't show up. And as a reminder, they need to cap the food and feed crops that we use to produce ethanol. If it's not coming from cleaner sources, it is not worth it. Now that's up to the authorities. We may or may not get these. Regardless, you must act now to protect yourself from the potential ethanol mismanagement. Remember ICICI Lombard? The green lash got loud and they heard it. The very next week, they reversed course and confirmed that policies stay fully valid with E20 fuel as well. So you need to call your own insurer, ask in writing whether E20 related damage is covered or not, get it on record. You are not one helpless consumer, you're part of a pool of millions. That's leverage, use it. And most importantly, whatever cost you bear to deal with this ethanol crisis, keep the damn receipts. If the government listens to you and puts a relief program in place, at least you're prepared for it. Oh, and if you're about to buy a new car, please make sure it's compatible. And that's it. That's how we can navigate this ethanol revolution better. You know, when Brazil's fuel program nearly collapsed in 1990, they didn't force a broken system onto their people. They rebuilt it slowly. They first gave people flex fuel cars, then the choice to switch to ethanol blends, and then they reduced ethanol prices to naturally gravitate their people towards the change. They were guided slowly.